All right, people, what's up? Today we're going to be talking about the phase one of the Kaizen Tax Blueprint. So this is the blueprint that I use with all of my clients to ensure that they have their business running properly and that their financials are set up from the start in order to achieve the tax savings that we're all wanting to achieve. So in this video, I'd love to jump directly into the tax savings and all the fun strategies that are possible and out there for business owners. But I can't stress enough the importance of building a strong foundation before we jump into all of that. That foundation will be what everything else works itself off of. All right, so that's enough for the introduction. Let's get into building the foundation of the system that'll save you money on taxes. So when I first talk to new clients, I always hear how taxes feel so stressful. Every single year, they don't know what's going on, they don't know what they're gonna end up paying, all these different things that are very common for business owners. But what I like to tell them in my philosophy on taxes is that it's just like any other game that you would play. So think of, I'm from East Texas, so games with dominoes like 42 and Moon that my grandpa used to teach me. At first, they're super daunting and they're not very clear on how exactly you play. But once you understand the rules of the game, it allows you to take that step and really start enjoying the game and actually begin winning at it. And in reality, taxes are simple. Once you understand the rules of the game, it's the same thing as playing any sort of card game or dominoes game. You start to feel unstoppable because you know what the government wants you to do and how to actually play the game. You know the rules, so you start taking action early, and that eliminates all the downstream stress. And once you begin moving with this confidence, you're making the decisions early and you have a game plan to follow. And most importantly, because life happens, things happen in your business, if something comes up, you're easily able to pivot because you have that game plan already laid out. So now let's get into why phase one of the Kaizen Tax Blueprint actually exists. So first, it's to get you clarity so that your decisions are no longer guesses and you can proactively plan for the future. So that clarity enables you to actually make decisions confidently and you're not just playing in the dark. And the second thing is it paints a full picture. Once you have the visibility of what's going in, what's going out, you're actually able to make decisions from a bird's eye view, knowing what all is happening. And this works, and it really doesn't matter how many businesses you have. As long as you're implementing this organizational phase one structure that builds the foundation, you're able to operate all of your businesses together and still have a full picture of what all is going on across your financial world. And arguably the most important reason for why phase one exists is the elimination of stress. The tax season stops being emotional, it becomes stress-free because you know what's happening, you know how much you're gonna pay, and you're making intentional decisions rather than last-minute choices. Look, let's be real for a minute. Being an entrepreneur is hard. It's not for everybody, and there comes a lot of stress in the business of entrepreneurship, no matter what field you're in. And the last thing that you want is to owe a huge tax bill to the IRS at the end of the year. So what I'm trying to tell you is the point of phase one is to get a clear enough picture that you're able to make intentional decisions throughout the year, all in effort to set yourself up for success in phases 2 and 3, which we'll talk about at another time. So now I want to hit on briefly just why phase one has to come first. I get a lot of very eager new clients who come to me and instantly want to hop into tax savings, which I love, I respect it, I love the attitude, I love the enthusiasm, and I get it, because the whole point of what we're doing is to save money on taxes, right? But there's a reason why phase one has to come first. So the way I like to think about it is kind of like that parable from the Bible where it talks about what you're building your house on. You want it to be on a solid foundation. You want to build it on rock rather than sand. So you'd want to check the foundation before you begin building to make sure it's on solid ground rather than on sand, which will give way. And your business is the same way. Obviously, the parable from the Bible is talking about something a little bit different and a little bit more important, but your business can be built on the same principle. If you want a long-term sustainable tax strategy, it has to be built on something that is sustainable for the long term. We must get an understanding of the inputs into the business and all the things surrounding that before we can begin learning how to save money on taxes and figure out a tax planning strategy that will work for you. And trust me, I love saving money on taxes more than anyone, but if you don't have a starting point, it's like you're trying to take a road trip driving from Texas all the way to Florida with no GPS. You know, if you're just driving blindly, you're going to end up in God knows where. So the key is to have a foundational structure that allows you to know where you are and where you're going. You have a start point and an end point. So one of the biggest parts of phase one is the bookkeeping. And I know a lot of people think, oh, that's the boring work, it's admin work, it's not that important. But the truth is that bookkeeping is how you see your business while things are happening. It's a live scorecard that shows you how you're doing in different areas of your business. When done properly, it provides the cleanest form of information on knowing what you can safely spend money on, knowing what's deductible for you, and most importantly, what tax moves are available for you. And in my experience as a tax professional, messy books are the number one thing that inhibits business owners from actually saving money on taxes. It's stopped so many people just because they have no idea what's going on. And the truth is they have a lot of tax savings already from things they're already doing that they're just not tracking. So now let's talk about what clean books actually give you as a business owner. I feel like this is something I should talk about so that y'all are able to have a more tangible idea of what it is that makes bookkeeping so important for us. So the first thing is just the real-time visibility. You need a status report to see how different areas of your business are doing, and the books will tell more truth than what any employee will tell you. The second thing is clean categories, so knowing what buckets every expense gets placed into. And this also allows you to be prepared in case you were to get audited. It happens to everybody at some point, no matter how reasonable your tax positions are on your tax return. This creates a huge relief for business owners just knowing that if that ever happens and when that happens, that they're going to be defensible before the IRS and have nothing to worry about because they kept proper documentation of all of their business purchases, expenses, and tax deduction throughout the year. And the third thing is just having data with your clean books. So if you have upcoming business decisions or have the chance to invest in different things, you want to know what data supports which decisions. So bookkeeping is able to provide data to make those decisions confidently and move forward in your planning. You know, without checking that everything's in order, there's still a chance that we make it to where we want to be, but there's also a pretty likely chance that, you know, we're going to break down on the way and end up not even making it there. And that's why phase one is so important. It checks your status before you begin, and it lays the groundwork for everything else that we are going to be doing together. So we check our current status, and we know the route to get to where we want to go, and we're able to arrive smoothly and confidently. The system I built, the Kaizen Tax Blueprint, it's not just built to make quick tax savings and get a return filed. No, that's not what it's for. It's to support your financial growth throughout your entire business journey that evolves with you. And clean books are just part of the foundation that helps us get there. Now, clean books aren't the only thing in phase one. There's actually 3 parts. So now let's talk about another crucial part, which is your entity structuring. So when most people hear this, they instantly get turned off and they think that this is something that's overly complicated and very misunderstood throughout the business world. The reason that your entity structuring is so important and a foundational piece of your tax strategy is that it determines how money flows to you on your tax return. And the way that your money flows to you determines how you're taxed. And in a lot of cases, it also determines the ability that you have for certain tax strategies. Because some strategies are allowed under certain business entity structuring, but not on others. If we have the wrong structure, a lot of times we'll hit a ceiling super early on the amount of tax savings that we'll have. So what I want y'all to understand is that our entity structuring plays a huge role in determining what tax strategies are actually available to us. Once again, building the foundation for what is possible in phases 2 and 3. If we have the wrong business structure, then it creates opportunity for a lot of cleanup, a lot of friction, and a lot of cost to fix it later. And worst of all, potentially missing out on tax savings. On the flip side, with the right entity structure, we have the proper rules from the start to know what's available to us. It allows planning to go much smoother and more efficiently, and allows everything downstream to become to us much easier as we're doing our planning. So an example of this would be choosing to be an S corporation over a single member LLC. With this, we're instantly going to be saving a ton of money on self-employment taxes, And I'll go into further detail on that in another video, but for now, just know that you'll be saving a lot of money on self-employment taxes. So one thing I want to make sure that y'all understand is that we're not going for these fancy out-of-pocket strategies that are recommended online. We're not going to be trying to set up some Wyoming LLC with a Delaware parent company. No. That stuff is sold online as these advanced tax strategies, and I'll be honest, they don't actually really do much for you. They actually just cost you more than you're probably going to save. So we're here to set the foundation on solid ground so every decision we make is made with confidence. And the third and final part of the phase one of the Kaizen Tax Blueprint is compliance. So we have to clean up any past issues before we can start planning for the future, right? Because it's hard to think about the future when we still have things lingering from the past. So that's why it's in phase one, because we're going to solve it up front, get it out of the way, and stop having to allocate some of our cognitive load towards these past compliance issues. I tell people I have the pleasure to work with that there's no shame, there's no condemnation or anything like that in having issues from the past that we need to handle. It's just part of the job, and it's just friction in the system that we need to clean up so that things can be running smoothly. It's like getting an oil change, back to the car analogy. It makes everything run smoother because we're not having to worry and have these worries lingering in the back of our mind. So here's what the compliance cleanup of phase one actually looks like. So what we're doing is we're eliminating 3 sources of friction: back taxes, missed filings, and unresolved communication with the IRS. All of this is done with one goal in mind: getting you to a clean slate so we can begin planning for the future on your tax strategy. And lastly, the purpose of the compliance is once it's resolved, the planning potential becomes infinite because we're not worried about the past anymore, and we can begin planning for the future and operating with power and being able to be long-term thinking people. All right, so now let's bring phase one all together. So once again, phase one isn't busy work. It's not admin work. It's the foundation which all of the fun stuff is built upon. Bookkeeping paints the clear picture for you. Your entity structuring sets the boundaries on the possible strategies we're able to utilize. And compliance takes the weight off your shoulders and makes you not worried about the past and able to just plan for the future and be focused on that full time. With the 3 pillars taken care of, we're built on solid ground. We built our tax kingdom, our tax foundation on rock rather than on sand. And this allows us to start planning intentionally and stress-free as we start to look to the future and into phase 2 and phase 3, where the actual tax planning begins to take place. And look, I'll be the first one to say it. Phase 1 isn't always glamorous work. It's not the fun stuff you hear online about these crazy tax savings, but it provides the stability for everything else that we're going to be doing. You can't optimize a tax strategy with chaotic financials. If we don't know what's going on, we can't begin planning for the future and actually saving you money on taxes. Phase 1 solves any chaos that anyone has going on and provides the foundation to move into true tax planning. So look, I hope that if you don't get anything else from this video, that you understand this. Phase 1 of organization is not optional. It has to be done. You can handle it on your own, and I have some clients that want to do this part on their own, and I have others that want to hand it off to me and be completely hands off of everything to do with their financials. Either way, you just need to make sure that it's done correctly. And you need to remember that it's not optional. It's the starting point which everything else is built on. So if you need help figuring this out and want to make sure that you're starting from the correct starting point and getting everything right along the way, you can click the link down below and you can book a call with me and we can explore how I can guide you on your journey. So in my next video of this series, breaking down the Kaizen Tax Blueprint, we'll be covering phase 2, which is optimizing your business for tax savings. As you can see, there's 3 phases to the Kaizen Tax Blueprint, and you just got phase number 1 complete, which is the foundation, which once again has 3 pillars, which are bookkeeping, entity structuring, and compliance. So you've got the foundation now, so let's get into the tax savings. So that video will be popping up here shortly. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful in building the foundation for your financial structure. As always, never stop your relentless pursuit of continuous improvement, and I'll look forward to us talking again soon.